Welcome to All Sorts Podcast, your sonic key, unlocking the fascinating secrets hidden deep within stacks of information.
Think of us as your guides, really, transforming dense research into sparkling insights, just for you.
And today, we are plunging headfirst into a phenomenon that's really captured the ears and minds of millions. ASMR.
That's Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response for the full name.
Right. We've sifted through a ton of information, scientific papers, articles, online forums, you name it.
Yeah, basically pulling together a comprehensive deep dive into this whole world of tingles and whispers.
Our mission, pretty simple actually. We want to give you a clear understanding of what ASMR is.
How it works, its subtle magic, what the potential benefits might be.
And its surprising journey into popular culture. It's popped up everywhere.
It really has.
So whether you're already an ASMR devotee, maybe you've just seen it online and wondered, what is that? Or perhaps you're looking to understand relaxation and sensory stuff better.
You're definitely in the right place.
Okay, let's start at the core. What is ASMR exactly?
Well, like we said, Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. Fundamentally, it's this unique tingling sensation. Most people feel it starting right on the scalp, and then it often sort of cascades down
Where?
down the back of the neck, maybe the upper spine. It's described as pleasant, though.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's called a pleasant form of paresthesia. That's usually pins and needles, right?
Yeah.
Not always fun.
Exactly. But here, it's enjoyable. And there were comparisons made to auditory tactile synesthesia.
Synesthesia, that's like senses getting mixed up, seeing sounds, that kind of thing.
Sort of, yeah. In this case, it's like sounds or visuals are triggering a physical tactile sensation, that tingle.
Okay.
Now, there's also maybe some overlap with frisson.
Frisson, those goosebumps you get from amazing music. Okay. So it's in that category of positive sensory stuff.
Precisely. People often describe ASMR as a kind of low-grade euphoria.
Euphoria, wow.
Yeah, a mix of positive feelings and that very distinct, almost static-y tingle on the skin.
Right.
And it's key to remember, the term ASMR, it also refers to the media people make to trigger it, the videos, the audio.
And the sensation itself is just tingles.
Yep, informally, enthusiasts just call it the tingles.
So where did this whole thing bubble up from? Let's get into the history a bit.
Well, the main online chatter really started picking up around, say, 2007 to 2010.
Okay.
And interestingly, early on, there was this debate, some confusion about whether it was linked to sexual arousal.
I can see how that might happen.
Right, but many people discussing it online were quite insistent it was relaxing, euphoric, but definitely not sexual.
So they wanted to draw a clear line, though our sources do mention ASMRotica.
Yeah, that exists. It's the internet after all. But the core ASMR community really saw it as distinct.
Got it.
Which leads us to 2010. And Jennifer Allen, she was in those forums.
And she coined the name.
She proposed Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. Yeah.
Okay, let's break that down. Why those words? Autonomous.
She meant it as spontaneous self-governing, something that just happens.
Right. And sensory. Pretty straightforward.
Yep, about the senses, the sensation itself.
Meridian is the interesting one.
It is. She used it to mean like a peak, a high point. Crucially, it replaced orgasm, which was part of that earlier awkward debate.
Okay. A more clinical, less loaded term.
Exactly. And response just means it's triggered by something, external or maybe even internal.
Makes sense.
And Allen confirmed later in 2016 that she chose those terms deliberately to be objective, comfortable, clinical. She found a dictionary definition of meridian as a point of highest development.
Okay, so very intentional naming. Now, the sensation itself, if you haven't felt it, what's it like?
People who experience it use some vivid descriptions, like a mild electrical current or the carbonated bubbles in a glass of champagne, that kind of light, fizzy feeling.
And as we said, people just call it tingles, especially on the scalp, neck, back.
Yeah, and one source described it really well, a static tingling sensation originating from the back of the head, then propagating. Makes people feel relaxed and alert.
Relaxed and alert. That's a curious combination.
It is. It seems quite unique.
So is it the same for everyone who experiences it? Or does it vary?
Well, the core feeling seems consistent, that non-sexual tingle, the euphoria. But based on anecdotal reports online, because formal research is still catching up, there are variations.
Okay, like what our sources mentioned, two broad types of people.
Right. The first group seems to depend mainly on external triggers. Sounds, visuals, that kind of thing.
So they need something outside themselves to kick it off.
Pretty much. For them, the tingles start usually in the head, maybe move down the neck, upper back, in response to those cues.
And the second group?
They seem able to intentionally boost the sensation, even without a trigger sometimes.
Really? How?
Through focused attention. Kind of like meditation, some people
Yeah.
say. It suggests some level of internal control.
That's fascinating. The idea you could sort of conjure it up mentally. Which leads us nicely to triggers. What are they?
Triggers are just the stimuli that kick off the ASMR response.
Yeah.
Mostly auditory and visual, as we've said. And they can be everyday things, someone whispering, a gentle touch, or specific media, like videos or audio, sometimes made deliberately for ASMR, sometimes just discovered accidentally.
Accidental triggers. We'll get back to those.
Yeah.
But let's list some common intentional ones first. The sources have a huge list.
Okay, yeah. Auditory-wise, the classic is a soft voice, whispering, also blowing into a microphone, gentle exhaling sounds.
Elf sounds too.
Yep. Quiet clicks, sticks sounds, also tapping, like fingernails on a desk.
Button presses, keyboards.
Yeah, that too. And quiet, repetitive task sounds, like turning pages in a book.
Very soft.
And visually.
Watching someone really focus on a mundane task, like preparing food carefully.
Okay.
And a big one, receiving personal attention, even if it's simulated.
Like a virtual haircut.
Exactly. Or makeup application, hairstyling, even a role-played medical exam.
Right. What else?
The sound of rain, crinkly sounds, paper, foil, styrofoam, even some types of music for some people.
Interesting. And there was a study about effective triggers. Yeah, a 2017 study found lower-pitched, complex sounds tended to work well, and slow videos focused on details. Subtlety seems key.
Okay, let's dig into those categories a bit more. Auditory triggers beyond whispering.
Well, lots of non-vocal ambient sounds from human activities, like finger scratching surfaces gently, tapping, brushing hair, hands rubbing together, rustling fabric, even crushing eggshells or crinkling paper.
Wow, specific.
Yeah, and often it's just one person in a video doing these things, which kind of enhances the intimacy.
Right. Now, that personal attention category, why is that so effective?
It seems to be the mix of gentle actions and that focused, quiet voice, like getting a haircut or a massage, where the person is really attentive and speaks softly.
That caring, one-on-one feeling.
Exactly. It taps into something deeply relaxing for people who get ASMR.
And since you can't always have someone give you a pretend haircut.
The ASMR artists simulate it. They act right to the camera, like the viewer is there receiving the attention.
Creating that focused interaction.
Precisely. It can be quite powerful.
And there's that subcategory, clinical attention.
Yeah, that's a niche. ASMR artists role-playing as doctors, dentists, optometrists, doing routine exams.
But it's clearly pretend, right?
Oh, yeah. Everyone knows it's a simulation, not real medical care. But people report finding it therapeutic.
Therapeutic how?
Anecdotally, people say it helps with sleep, anxiety, depression, even panic attacks. That feeling of being cared for, even simulated, seems beneficial for some.
Interesting. And quickly, tactile triggers. Touch.
Less common than audio or visual, but yeah. Light touches, brushing the skin effleurage, like in massage, can be triggers for some.
So not just hearing and seeing. Okay, this gives us a great picture of the triggers. Let's rewind a bit. The history, the background. Where did the idea start?
Well, you can really pinpoint the start of the contemporary discussion to October 19, 2007.
That's specific?
Yep. A user called OK Whatever posted on a Steady Health forum, a health discussion site.
And what did they post about?
They described this feeling they had had since childhood, like fingers tracing on skin but triggered by non-touch things.
Like what?
Like watching a puppet show or being read a story. Random stuff. But the post resonated. Others chimed in saying, "Me too."
Wow. So one post kicked off the whole online community.
Pretty much.
Now, there's a theory connecting ASMR to non-threat perception, altruistic attention.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. It suggests ASMR is linked to how we perceive safe, caring attention.
Okay.
The theory draws a parallel to grooming in primates. You know, monkeys grooming each other.
Yeah, for bonding, right, not just cleaning.
Exactly. It builds social bonds, creates safety, feels good, pleasurable, even euphoric.
And the idea is ASMR triggers tap into that same feeling, like virtual grooming.
That's the hypothesis.
Yeah.
The gentle, focused attention mimics that safe, nurturing interaction.
Is there any brain evidence for this fMRI stuff?
There is, actually. Studies show that when people feel the tingles, there's more activity in brain areas linked to social behavior.
Like which ones?
The medial prefrontal cortex involved in social understanding, even feeling groomed, and the secondary somatosensory cortex, which processes touch.
So the brain activity kind of lines up with this social bonding, gentle touch idea.
It lends support to it, yeah. It suggests ASMR might be tapping into some really fundamental social and sensory brain pathways.
Fascinating. Okay, let's talk about ASMR in the media. It's huge online, obviously.
Absolutely huge. Videos are the main source of triggers people talk about.
And you mentioned intentional versus unintentional.
Right. Intentional is stuff made by ASMR artists specifically to trigger ASMR.
And unintentional.
That's content made for other reasons, maybe even before ASMR was a known term. That just happens to work for some people.
Like who? Any famous examples?
The classic unintentional trigger is Bob Ross.
The painter, of course. His voice, the brush sounds.
Exactly. His gentle manner, the soft sounds of painting. Also, people mention author John Butler's soft way of speaking online, even some stop-motion animation like by the filmmaker PES. The quiet detail can be a trigger.
It's amazing how everyday things can have this effect. And the number of videos now is just massive.
Mind-boggling. By 2022, estimates were around 25 million ASMR videos just on YouTube.
Wow.
Plus, dedicated live streams on Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. It's constantly growing. And you have huge creators like Gentle Whispering or Gibby ASMR with millions of followers.
Yeah, they're practically celebrities in that world.
Yeah.
Now, another technique they use is binaural recording. What's that about?
Binaural. It's a special way of recording audio to simulate 3D sound, like how we actually hear things in space.
Okay. How does it work?
You use special mics, often shaped like human ears, placed about the same distance apart as our ears. It tries to capture sound exactly how our ears would.
To make it sound more realistic.
And more immersive. The goal is to make you feel like you're right there, very close to the sounds.
Does it make a big difference?
When you listen with headphones, and headphones are key, yes. It creates this sense of sounds coming from specific points around you. Left, right, behind, close up.
A 3D soundscape.
Exactly. You feel the proximity.
Sure.
For ASMR, hearing whispers or taps sound like they're right next to your ear can be really effective for triggering tingles.
Makes sense. More intimate. Is it related to binaural beats? People talk about those for relaxation too.
There's a comparison sometimes, yeah. Binaural beats use slightly different frequencies in each ear, also aiming for relaxation or altered states. And interestingly, that term binaural beats has ties to the Monroe Institute and their Stargate project work, exploring sound in consciousness.
Wow, okay. Different mechanism, but a similar goal of using sound for effect.
Pretty much. It just shows how creators are using sophisticated audio techniques.
Definitely. So how has the scientific world reacted to all this? Was it dismissed at first?
Initially, yes, some skepticism. It's a subjective experience, hard to measure. But as more and more people reported it online consistently.
People started taking notice.
Right. Dr. Stephen Novella, a Yale neurologist, wrote about it back in 2012. He said he leaned towards believing it was real, precisely because so many unrelated people described the same thing.
Like migraines, you know it's real because people consistently report the symptoms.
Exactly that parallel.
Yeah.
He tentatively suggested it might be like a mini pleasural seizure or just unique way the brain's pleasure circuits get activated.
But he called for actual research.
Absolutely. He stressed the need for fMRI, TMS ways to actually look at the brain during ASMR versus not.
And has that happened? Is there more research now?
Definitely. The field's growing. UCLA Health estimated maybe 20% of people experience it, so it's not that niche.
20%, wow.
Yeah, and preliminary research suggests it might share brain pathways with things like music-induced chills or aesthetic shivers.
Okay.
One fMRI study did find spikes in activity in brain areas linked to emotion and reward during tingles.
Emotion and reward. Interesting. What about physical responses, heart rate, stuff like that?
Yes, and this is fascinating. Unlike those musical chills where heart rate tends to go up, during ASMR, studies show heart rate and breathing actually slow down.
More like relaxation or meditation.
Exactly. Which fits perfectly with people saying it helps them relax and sleep.
Which leads to the reported benefits. Relaxation, sleep. What else?
People widely report using it for anxiety relief, improving mood, even managing chronic pain symptoms.
Again, mostly anecdotal at this stage.
Largely anecdotal or from preliminary studies, yes. But the consistency of reports is driving more research into these potential therapeutic uses.
Makes sense. Now, the sources compared ASMR to a few other things. Synesthesia, we mentioned.
Right. The comparison there is that feeling of being touched by sound or visuals without actual touch, like one sense triggering another.
Okay. What about misophonia? That sounds unpleasant.
It is. Misophonia means hatred of sound. People with it have strong negative reactions, anger, disgust to specific sounds, often mouth sounds, breathing.
So the exact opposite of ASMR, where those sounds can be triggers.
Precisely the opposite. It really highlights how differently brains can process the same sounds.
Wild. Then there's frisson, again, the musical chills. How do they compare?
They seem related. An fMRI study in 2018 showed overlapping brain activation. Similar mechanisms might be involved.
That they feel different.
People who experience both often say they feel qualitatively different triggers, maybe slightly different sensations, even if the underlying brain activity has similarities.
Okay. And lastly, the elephant in the room, sexuality. What's the verdict?
Well, despite some media portrayals suggesting intimacy or arousal,
Yeah.
the sources are clear. There's no scientific evidence linking ASMR itself to sexual arousal.
But there seems to be a but.
But one scholar, Emily Waldron, talks about mediated intimacy. The feeling of closeness and focused attention from an ASMR artist might create ambiguous feelings for some, occasionally leading to that conflation with sexuality, even if the core tingle isn't sexual.
So it's more about the performance of intimacy than the sensation itself causing arousal?
That seems to be the nuanced view, yeah.
Okay, helpful distinction. Now, pop culture. It's clearly broken out of just niche online spaces.
Massively. It's influencing contemporary art. Claire Tolan in Berlin, Lucy Clout in the UK. They have been using ASMR concepts in installations and videos since around 2013.
Digital art, too.
Yep. Julie White's Touch Museum in 2015 was a big one. An installation designed to evoke ASMR. Benjamin Wynn or Daru even composed music specifically for it.
Music inspired by ASMR.
Lots of it. Sophie Mallet, Marie Toslan, creating binaural sound works. Holly Herndon collaborated with Claire Tolan on an album track specifically to trigger ASMR.
Wow.
Holly Pester explored links between ASMR and lullabies. People have even gone back and said Pink Floyd's Ellen's Psychedelic Breakfast from 1970 feels like early ASMR.
With the breakfast sounds and whisper. Yeah, I can see that. What about film and TV?
Oh, yeah. The haircut scene in Battle of the Sexes, 2017, was deliberately filled with triggers.
I remember that.
There have been indie films like Murmurs, documentaries like Tertiary Sound, scenes in We're All Going to the World's Fair, Should I?
It's everywhere on TV, too, isn't it?
Seems like it. ASMR artists on panel shows like Would I Lie to You? Netflix has followed this. Did an episode called The Internet Whisperers.
Right.
Jimmy Kimmel had kids explain it. Michelob ran an ASMR Super Bowl ad.
The Super Bowl. Okay, it's officially mainstream.
Pretty much. Bill Maher discussed it. It's shown up in plots on The Good Fight, Criminal Minds, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Even Beavis and Butthead watched Gibby ASMR recently.
Beavis and Butthead. Okay, that's peak pop culture saturation. Literature, too.
Yep. A story on This American Life called A Tribe Called Rest back in 2013. Marie Darrieussecq described something very ASMR-like in a French novel from 2001.
Before the term existed.
Exactly. Plus nonfiction books like Brain Tingles, podcasts like Pillow Talk.
And actual museum exhibitions.
Yes. Weird Sensation Feels Good. Started in Sweden in 2020, went to the Design Museum in London in 2022, and is heading to Hong Kong in 2025.
That's incredible. It shows real cultural recognition. Okay, let's circle back to a key reported benefit. Sleep. What's the research say there?
There was a notable study with medical students in Malaysia. They split them into two groups.
Okay.
One group watched 20 minutes of ASMR video every night for 2 weeks. The control group watched non-ASMR videos. They used the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, the PSQI, to measure sleep.
And the results? Did ASMR help?
Significantly, yes. The ASMR group's PSQI scores dropped quite a bit, meaning their sleep quality improved noticeably.
Compared to the control group.
Right. The control group's scores didn't really change. And after 2 weeks, the ASMR group's scores were significantly better than the controls.
Wow. Did they actually move into a good sleep category?
Many did. Beforehand, everyone was rated as having bad sleep quality. After the ASMR intervention, over 73% of the ASMR group moved into the good sleep category.
While the control group
all stayed in the bad category.
That's a striking difference. Did the study suggest why it might help sleep?
They proposed a few ideas. The monotonous nature encourages eye closing.
Makes sense.
The sounds might evoke pleasant, relaxing memories. The tingles themselves could reduce tension. And maybe crucially, it helps stop racing thoughts.
Quiets the mind.
Exactly. They also mentioned potential links to REM sleep brain activity, muscle relaxation, promoting that parasympathetic rest and digest state.
So, multiple potential pathways to better sleep. Seems like a promising area. Now, shifting gears slightly, there was this interesting take on the absurdity of ASMR.
Ah, yes, the Practical Ethics article. It points out how, Well, objectively pointless, some triggers seem.
Like what?
Someone unpacking a box just to repack it, showing off notebooks in minute detail, folding napkins, stuff with no real practical purpose, yet gets millions of views.
It does sound a bit absurd when you put it like that. Did the article find any value despite the absurdity?
It did. It cited a study suggesting ASMR can temporarily help mood in people with depression or reduce pain perception in chronic pain sufferers. So maybe not entirely pointless therapeutically. It also mentioned Rodri Marsden's observation, the weird pleasure people get from watching someone explain obvious things very, very carefully.
Huh. So is the absurdity part of the appeal?
The article explores that. It breaks ASMR down into the stimulus, creating it, and watching it. If creating calms the creator and watching helps the viewer relax or feel better, maybe it's not pointless.
Function over form.
Kind of. It even suggests the pleasure might come from the discord of seeing trivial things taken so seriously, linking it to philosophical ideas of the absurd, like nagels.
Deep. But it also brings back the safety cues idea.
Right. It mentions the comment that ASMR might tap into evolved responses to safety cues, friendly interaction, that virtual grooming again, and how YouTube acts like natural selection, favoring times that work reliably. So ultimately, maybe it's only absurd if you ignore its effect on the people who experience it.
A really interesting perspective. Okay, nearly there. The online community Reddit was mentioned.
Yeah, the harassment or subreddit is a big hub. People share favorite triggers, recommend ASMR artists, ask questions, just discuss the whole phenomenon.
A place to connect with others who get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the guidelines usually stress keeping it respectful, non-sexual, reinforcing that distinction the community values. They use tags, too, to sort intentional, unintentional discussion, question.
Helps organize things. Finally, brainfacts.org, the neuroscience perspective. What were their key takeaways?
They highlighted the popularity surge since 2007 and Dr. Perrio's research showing that weird mix, lower heart rate suggesting relaxation.
But increased skin conductance suggesting emotional arousal.
Exactly. Calming and engaging.
That paradox again. What about brain area?
They confirmed activation in reward, emotion, and social behavior areas. That medial prefrontal cortex, again, linking back to the virtual grooming theory.
Okay.
The idea that ASMR mimics nurturing social interaction, maybe releasing oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
Neurotransmitters, too.
Likely involved, yeah. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. Differences in people's receptors for these might explain why some feel ASMR and others don't.
And they also saw links to auditory and emotion processing, similar to music chills.
Yeah, it's suggesting maybe similar pathways are involved in processing these emotionally resonant sounds.
So it's complex. Physiology, neurology, social cues, all interacting. And we're still figuring it out.
Precisely. It's an active area of research, and we're learning more all the time.
Well, this has been absolutely fascinating. A really thorough deep dive into ASMR, the definition, the triggers, the science, the culture, the benefits.
It really is this remarkable, still slightly mysterious phenomenon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Touching on senses, emotions, even social connection.
Definitely. And it leaves us with a thought for you, our listener. Think about your own sensory world. Those everyday sounds, sights, maybe textures. Have you ever felt something unexpected? A specific calm, a focus, maybe even a faint tingle from something seemingly ordinary?
Perhaps you've had an ASMR-like experience without realizing it. It's just a reminder of how rich and weirdly wonderful our senses can be.
And now, dear listener, if this journey into the world of tingles and whispers has sparked curiosity within you, if you've found resonance in the gentle unfolding of knowledge, then let that feeling ripple outwards.
Like the softest of ASMR triggers, a simple act can create a world of difference. Glide over to the All Sorts podcast on YouTube, where a universe of deep dives awaits you.
Let your fingertips dance upon that like button. Share this exploration with anyone else whose mind yearns for understanding, and definitely subscribe so you never miss another journey into the fascinating.
Our archive is just bursting with insights, Each deep dive is a whole unique landscape waiting for you to discover.
And for those of you navigating the digital realms of X, Instagram, and Threads, find All Sorts podcasts there too. Join our growing community.
Your engagement, your clicks, your shares, they honestly fuel our quest for knowledge. They allow us to keep crafting these sonic voyages just for you.
And please, do check out the other deep dives we've already created right here on All Sorts Podcasts. There's so much more to explore.